Let's take a look at some of the questions on homework number 4. The first topic is checking a value to see if it makes an equation true. So there are two ways you can solve the questions in this section. And the first is you could solve each of these equations separately by isolating the variable x like this, using a inverse operation and a property of equality, and seeing that for this first one, x is 11, it's not 7, so you could cross that off. Another way that you could solve is, instead of going through each of the 4 options, is you could take this value and substitute it into the position of x. So for the first one, I would erase and replace the letter x with the substitute 7. 7 times 7 is 49. 49 minus 3 is not equal to 74. That's another way that you could check. If I were to use the substitution method for the second one, I would erase and replace the letter x with its substitute of 7. And then I would compute 42 plus 5, and then I would check, is 47 equal to 47? And it checks. Let's take a look at another question. What value of y makes the equation below true? So again, you have two options when you're looking to solve this question. The first is you could straight up solve the equation using your inverse operations like this to isolate the letter y to find the actual solution. That's one. Another option would be to substitute each of these values into the place of y. So you erase and replace the letter y, and you substitute it in with each of these values to see which one would equal 51. So if we substitute in a 5 here, we would get 10 times 5 plus 1, and that does indeed equal 51. Let's take a look at another question here. Again, you have two options. You can solve each of these 4 equations, or you can erase and replace variable x with the value of 6. This same task will happen in the second section of the homework. Again, for this question, you have the choice of erasing and replacing that value of x with each of these options below. And I would erase and replace with my first value here. And if I was going to compute this, I would use my calculator. If you don't have a calculator at home, I suggest you use the online Desmos calculator, like this one here, and type these values in directly as you see them here. 5/3 parentheses, so let's take a look. You can use the division button here to show 5/3, or you can use this fraction button here. So again, it was 5/3 parentheses, and then -7 plus 1/3. So -7, oops, let's back up here. -7 plus fraction bar, 1/3, and then arrow out, close the parentheses, and then there's an equal sign. So I'm just going to compute this. And when I'm done, I'm going to see if it says -115/9. So I'm done here. It's giving me a decimal value, so I don't know if that's 115/9. So I'm going to convert it over here, and it's not. It's 100/9. Now, I don't need to retype this whole expression. I simply need to change the input value, right? -8. So I can type a -8 here. And there we go, -115/9. So you can choose it by substitution here, or I could have distributed my 5/3 got 5/3 x plus 5/9 equals negative 115 over 9. Then I would subtract 5/9 from both sides, and I would get 5/3 x equals 110 over 9. Sorry, let me back up here. 5/3 x equals negative 120 over 9. And then to clear a coefficient that's a fraction, I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. I'm going to cross cancel these here. And this one is 1, and that one is 24. So I would get negative 24 over 3. Negative 24 over 3, which equals negative 8, which is exactly what we figured out by substituting in each of these answer values. You should be able to solve it using this pink method or using the guess and check for the answer model. Let's take a look at the third section, which is solving without a multiple choice option. So in order to solve this here, you have to understand that you're going to remove your constant values first using an inverse operation and a subtraction property of equality. And when we rewrite, we have a fraction coefficient. So instead of dividing by a fraction, right, instead of dividing by a fraction, we're going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal. Again, you can use your calculator to help you compute 30 times 9/5 if you don't want to do the math mentally. Right? So I can do this math mentally as well. But if I needed to do it by using a calculator, you can use your handheld calculator, or you can use an online calculator, such as the Desmos Scientific. And you would type 30 times, and I believe we were 9/5. 30 times 9/5, that's how, whoops. This is how you would type it on that Desmos calculator, and you can press enter, or you can see the answer there is 54. So we're going to type that answer key here in the field and submit it. Let's try one more. Again, when you're solving or isolating for a variable, the first thing you're going to do is find your variable, and then find any constant that is on the same side as that variable, and clear that constant first. Then if you have a coefficient that's a fraction, you're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So that's 6 times 11, which is 66, and there's no denominator here, so it's 1 times 2, or half of 66, which is going to be 33. So our solution here for z is going to be 33. All right, let's take a look at the next topic here, which is linear equations with distribution. And when we distribute, we multiply this coefficient outside times everything inside the parentheses, and once we hit the end of the parentheses, we stop multiplying. So we're going to get 2 times x and 2 times minus 5. And then we're going to use those same inverse operations that we did before. 2x is equal to 18. And then we're going to divide both sides by 2. And we'll get our final answer that x is equal to 9. We'll type it here, and we'll do it again. Again, when you are distributing, you multiply, but as soon as you hit the end of the parentheses, you will stop multiplying. So it's 3 times 5y, and 3 times minus 1, but then no more multiplying after that. We're going to clear our constant first, and then we're going to do our dividing last. Pick up your calculator if you need to. For us, y is equal to 2. The next section continues with distribution, except it's also going to ask you to combine like terms. So let's take a look at this one here. I'm going to shrink it down just a bit so I have some more room to write. And we have some distributing, and then we stop. So I have 6x minus 8, but everything else I'm going to rewrite the same. Now you'll notice I have 1, 2, 3, 4 terms on the same side of the equal sign. The most you can have is 2. Letters with a variable and constants without. So I see here that I have a 6x and a plus x. So I'm going to combine these together to make 7x. I also see that I have a minus 8 and a minus 1. I'm going to combine those together to make a minus 9. The equal sign and the solution will remain the same. First, I'm going to clear my constant here by doing the inverse operation, which will be plus 9. And then I'm going to rewrite. 7x remains, equals remains, and then we need some math over here. It's going to be negative 7. I divide by my coefficient, and I get my final answer, negative 1. Again, this problem required us to distribute and combine like terms. Please do not write an equal sign. Oh, okay, I just want the value of the answer. Let's try this one more time. When the parentheses end, the distributing stops, and everything else gets copied as is. Now notice when I circle my like terms, that I also circle the operation in front of it. And that's important because it's going to tell you how you're going to combine these. So I'm going to combine this positive 4 and this positive 4x to make it positive 8x. Here I have a minus 4 and a minus 1, and that's going to give me a minus 5. Clear my constant first. Divide by my coefficient last, and get my final answer. All right, let's take a look at our last section, which is equations that contain a fraction that needs to be distributed. Now, you may want to use a calculator to help you distribute here, but remember this is the solution and we don't do any math with it yet. We're going to multiply 7 halves times 3x, and 7 times 3 is 21, and then 7 halves times minus 4, which is going to be negative 28 over 2. Now this one is not evenly divisible, but this one is. So I'm going to reduce this 28 halves into a 14. And then I'm going to clear this constant. And then I'm going to clear this coefficient by multiplying by the reciprocal. 2 over 21 times 17. You can do that on the Desmos calculator as well. So clear everything. 2 over 21. And then we're going to times that by 17 and convert that to a fraction. So 34 over 21. Let's take a look here. All right, one last time. Take a look here. Again, we're going to leave the answer as is. We're going to distribute this coefficient here. 4/3 x. Use your calculator if you need to. 4 times 6 is 24. 24 divided by 3 is 8. Clear my constant. And then multiply by the reciprocal. Use your calculator if necessary. Alright, that concludes our video for homework number 4.